Welcome back. In this episode, all the new parts for the rear brakes arrive. We start putting on new hardware for the rear coilovers. We rebuilt the entire rear brake system so that everything is brand new. And we get to see the car on the ground. Alright, then this big pile just arrived. Is the shocks for the new fronts we're going to be building, the coilovers. Is the rear bearings for the rear axle. Shoes and drums for the rear axle as well, so that all mechanical, it's gonna be all new. It's gonna still look pretty janky. I don't really care, because everything's gonna be new. We're gonna be renovating all this stuff. And as you saw, we changed the diff, and the entire housing looks like crap, but everything inside and all that kind of stuff is going to be just as new. So that is pretty cool. Also, I have had some thoughts about this, and some of you guys mentioned in the comments that maybe we should strengthen it, because this was not meant to take the entire weight of the car, and I am all for it. I totally agree. I kind of had a hard time seeing why this was normally just used as it is, as I would also strengthen it, but I guess a lot of guys just drive it like this, and they are fine, so why shouldn't we? But still, I am planning on making a few gussets, something that will support this on the axle. That will take the load away from just this piece. I think that is going to be wise to do now that everything is taken apart. We can just plug up this hole and drill and cut and do whatever, and then put everything back together and take out the seals and renovate it. Also, one of you guys commented on the tops of my rear coilovers that this part is probably not going to hold. I have done the same on my A86 on the fronts, and that is just holding up fine. That's my daily driver. I use it every day and I beat on it. But I'm not one to not listen to advice, so I'm going to look at making some sort of support. Maybe I don't know, piece that goes from the cups and down here, and incorporating it into this of some sort, but we'll have to see. I think right now I'm just going to be focusing on making the gussets for the support for the rear, for mounting these on the axle, and then we will just take it from there. Alright, so this is what we ended up with. One gusset will sit here, having hold of it all, and then this will be on the back side, supporting the axle, and also down onto this. And this is how it ended up, with this extension gusset that goes onto the axle, down to the arm that holds the strut, and also the piece on the back that is connected both to the all the way up for some strength, and up on the axle, and that is going to hold it just fine. So that being done, I'm gonna apply some steel it, I think, and then we will get on to changing seal and bearing in this thing. I'm just gonna apply a little paint first, and then we can clean this up and get it all out. And now all covered up in steel it, the axle has been thoroughly cleaned on the end. It's time to get the seals out, get new seals in, and then do the axles and get this side finished and start up on the other side. And this is the inside of the drum being cleaned up, everything being checked to work, and everything is just fine. So this is going to get new shoes in, and then we're gonna close it up with the new drum after we get the axle in with the new bearing on. So this is basically all brand new underneath all the old crap. So technically this is going to be as new as it can be, and I hope that is going to change the way the car drives and rides. And while I'm waiting on the brake fluid to drain, I was just gonna swap this hand brake cable lever and some other things onto the new brake shoes, because you need to reuse this stud that is on this arm. So you need to push this one, the new one, you need to push that out. Here is the one from the other side. So you basically just push it through and out, and then the hole will accommodate this one. But I was kind of wondering why these pads were like all this gone and stuff, and why nobody tried to change them. One factor could be that the slave cylinder was leaking and leaking out brake fluid. That will just dissolve about anything. Also, this arm on the back side, where you normally would have some sort of clip like this that you can just pull out, is actually welded. So they did some, again, lovely modifications here. So I'm not really sure how to deal with this, because I would like it to be more like it should. So I might have to extend this and drill a new hole or make a new groove so that we can fit the locking collar. But now I'm just going to grind this off, take it off, and then have a look at it. Alright, finally back on this thing. The brake, the rear brake slave has been changed. New shoes, new hardware, springs, everything. Turns out that the springs that were put in there were not the correct ones, because they didn't lock up on this small adjustment wheel. That is to make sure that you can have the shoes out near the brake drum. This one does though, so this is the correct one. Also, new holders, everything is looped up where the shoes sits on the backing plate. And I'm also just gravity draining the brake fluid, because this has seen better days. So I'm going to be putting new in, of course, but just letting this gravity drain. Just put a bottle on there and let it run out. Then when that is dry, I will refill the system with new brake fluid and bleed it, and that will be done. So this brake assembly here is basically ready to go. There's just one more thing that we need, which is one of them tubbies here. Let's see if I can put it on there for you. So this will go on. Oh, binding on the shoes, are we? So the shoes were definitely adjusted to take out the slack that was in them before, because this does not fit over. I have to space them or get them a little bit more inward to get the drum over. So that is great, and that is done by adjusting this little screw here. You can do that with some small pry bar, or you can use a screwdriver, and you can actually do it from behind without having the entire drum assembly off. So that is pretty smart. But let's see if we can do this. Yeah, I'll adjust this and get the drum on, and I'll show you. Rear brakes and rear axles are basically done. Panhard bars on there, just need a bigger washer to make sure it doesn't fall off. Then we will be putting on the coilovers, getting it to ride height. The rear axle is then done. to start cutting this thing off. Cutting it off, center punching it pretty damn close, and then drilling it up to accommodate a 16mm bolt, because this, as you can see, is rusty, really rusty. So this has been fitted before with just rubber on this, and now I have a machine sleeve that is exactly 16mm. That's not gonna fit in over this, and it's also gonna be a bit noisy, and then it's gonna snap this thing off. So this needs to go, and we need to make a new 16mm. This was at some point 16mm. That means that if I ever want to go back, I can just fit the stock shock absorber here and the shock spring, the stock spring back, and nobody will ever know, except when they take a look at this carnage. But they won't mind, because the entire car is totally cut up. So who gives a crap anyway? There you have it. One 16mm bolt threaded through in the same position as the original one was, just without all the rust. And this will have the additional strength of being one piece. This will get welded both sides. I'll be grinding all the rust proofing off so we can get a good penetration in the weld. Also back here, then we will be doing the gussets so that we can transfer the weight from this point all the way up to the axle. And this is basically it, how it will look. Then I will, before welding anything, I'll of course prep everything up. Then I will install the strut the way it's going to sit, because that will give me the alignment of this guy, because now you have a little play, and that is okay. I kind of did that. I did it on purpose, because on the other side I did it really tight because I wanted a tight fit, hammered it through, only to realize that when I put the coilover on, it wasn't aligning up in the angle that it needed to be perfectly straight. So I am just leaving a little wiggle room for this to be adjusted accordingly. Then I will tag it up. I'll remove the coilover again, because that is going to require a lot of heat to get this thing welded on there. Then I will weld it completely on there, ground it down where I need it here, put gussets on, and that will really be all she wrote. So this is basically the first time that the entire rear axle is supported by the coilovers. At this point, this is not welded on. I just want everything to sit where it needs to sit before I start welding. Then I'll take it all off and I'll weld it up the way it should be. But clearance wise, on everything, it's just looking really, really good. I'm pretty happy with this. Also, made these gussets that will sit like this to support the bracket, take some of the strain off, put the load onto the axle, and when this being welded on like this, it's also going to be supported from the back with this piece, so it's going to be really, really strong. Let's get into this, just grind it down and put everything back together. There's a lot of on off, but that is the way to do it, to make sure you get all the angles and everything the way you want it and the way it should be. so you don't have stuff binding up because you got it caught at a bad angle. This should hold hot. This should hold really, really good. And I said this is a 16mm. The original one is also a 16mm. So if you ever want it to be completely like it was, you can cut it, all the threads off, and you can center punch it, drill a hole, and thread that so you will have it exactly the way it was, just a lot more strong. But we need the extra length to be able to fit the coilover, so we're going to determine how much we actually need, cut this, and get on with the rest of it. And having gotten this far, it's time to clean a bit up in the shop. All the rust and stuff on the floor needs to be swept up in preparation for the next thing, which is painting the boot. I'm doing this in preparation to fitting the coilovers because I want the rear strut towers painted before we fit everything up, as to not have to take everything apart again. So this is just a rattle can spray job with some black so it matches the engine bay. And that being done, it's time to fit the coilovers. This is the money shot. This is why we do it, guys. This is why we do it. Spend all these nights in the shop, basically the whole winter. And all the things being done to this car, I can't wait to drive it again for the first time. The ride will be a lot worse, I know that. That's not the point. The point is, now it's gonna be sitting real pretty. The electrical harness is gonna work. I'm not gonna have any issues, blown fuses and worn out whatever relay, stuff like that. Front lights not working. Everything has just been beefed up. Also power steering, can't wait to try that out. And get all the stuff back inside the car. This is a dream come true. I never wanted to do this to the car because I was just meh. It is just old and whatnot. Just drive it and enjoy it. But all the little things, they were just annoying me so much that I wasn't really happy with it. So, oh yeah, can't wait to get the final touches on this car, to get the livery painted, and to get it running. Such a cool thing. And this is out in the sun for the first time, or just out of the garage for the first time in 6 months. So that's kind of a pretty awesome feeling. On the new coilovers, it looks just really low already now compared to what it was. and I want it to sit like really low. We might have to go down one size on the rear tires because they have so much meat on them. We might go down just a tad. It doesn't matter though, that'll match the fronts. I would really love to keep this 70s Formula 1 style setup, but it is all about the look and the stance on this one. So we are going to have to see. Nothing is adjusted yet. It's just put on. It's pretty dusty and it's blowing today, so I guess we can blow this thing off, just getting all the dust off. And that'll be good. And now that it's really low, you can see some of the places where you would like to maybe have had removed a little bit more. Doesn't matter though, because this is gonna clear fine. The only thing that is going to, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but is worth noticing is that the front rear or lower control arms, they need to be lengthened just a bit to get the wheels out into the new arches, to make the stance all look right. Because these, even though they are negative 19 in ET, it's still not enough because it is 40-50 millimeters wider on each side. And also, if we want to clear this, we can't just put on a spacer to get it out, because that will get the wheel out where it needs to be, but the pivot point will also move, so the wheel will kind of pivot more. Well, it will pivot the same, but it will go further, and we don't want that. But this is a cool little hot rod. Man, I just love how this turned out. So much better than that 70s veteran style car it had. This is what I always wanted. All new hardware and screws, absolutely no rust, coilovers, fat tires, little subtle modifications in here, like the catch tank we did with the AN lines. Also AN lined all the fuel lines, stuff like that. We did some of these unoriginal tanks. Some people might not be a fan of that, but it fits the style. Everything fits the style. All new wiring harness throughout the car. Oh, man, this is good. This is so freaking good. And thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing. That'll help me grow this channel. And I will see you on the next one. Bye. That's just beautiful. Beautiful, guys.